In this video, I'm going to teach you guys how to solve the square one. Before you get into scrambling your square one, I want to show you guys a few things. So first of all, we're going to be holding the square one. So if it's a cube shape, then we're going to hold this bigger one. It's going to be on our right, so our right thumb should always be touching this. Unless it's a slice, then it should look like this, and just make sure it's always like that, because we don't want to be holding it like that, otherwise that will mess up the algs we use. And also, another thing is you want to remember whether white is on top or bottom. That's going to be helpful later on, because you could have cases like this where it just doesn't make sense. It's because yellow's on top, and for my color scheme, white needs to be on top. So we do this, and then white is on top. Another thing is, if you're in cube shape and you misalign at either the layers just by one piece, it will remain in cube shape. And this doesn't count. This thing, because it can be solved at the very end with an alg, which you may or may not know. But for and then the one final thing is one alg you need to learn before. It kind of looks like an M2 on a 3x3. But of course, there's no other centers. It does the same thing. You could look at the similarities. And how you do it is you misalign the top layer by one like this. Do a slice, and then misalign the bottom layer, and realign the top one like that. It's super easy, and it can be done pretty fast. So once again, just misalign top layer by one, misalign the bottom, and then realign the top, and then like that, boom, there you have it. So after you've scrambled your square one, what you're going to want to do is try to group a bunch of edges together as possible. So we have this group of 4, maybe you'll have a group of 3. You generally want it to be on top, and if not, you could just move it to the top by doing a slice or something. So we have this right here, and then we want to make sure we have a line right here. And then we're going to insert edges from the back. So we want to try to get this group of 2 here to match up with this to make a group of 6. But it doesn't look like that's going to be very possible or very easy. So what we're going to do is, since there's no slice like this, there's no line where you can just slice it into the top layer, we're going to have to do one of these two. We'll do this one because it just is easier. So we can see there's a line here, so it will work. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold it right here in the back, and then we're going to insert it to the front, which looks like this. And now we have a group of 5 edges. So we could just continue doing that. And as you can see, we have no slice. We actually have no slice. We can insert these 2 edges, but we can't insert it to the top. And just in case it doesn't work from the back, we can hold it like this if there's a slice here, and then hold the edges here, but it still doesn't work. So what we're gonna do is, since this is 2 edges, we're just gonna replace one single edge with 2, like this. And now we have more edges than we did last time, even though it's just increased by 1. Still better than nothing. And then we can group this like that, and there you go. Okay, so this last case, you may have a group of 2 like this, and you may solve it like that, and it may be a little tricky. So I'll just teach you a very basic algorithm. It's not that many slices. I actually developed it myself. I don't know if other people use this or not, but it's gonna it's gonna do a lot of things, but it's gonna mainly group all the edges together in this case. So it looks like this. And now, as you can see, all the edges are grouped up. After we have all the edges are grouped up, we're gonna do this to get in the cube shape. So we're gonna hold it to where on this slice, we have obviously slice down here, and on this half of the slice, we're gonna have 4 and 4 on the other half, and then slice like this, and we should have 4 in the top and 4 in the bottom. Next, we're gonna hold them in front like this, where 2 are here on this side, on the right side, 2 are on this side, 2 are on this side, and 2 are on this side. And so it's going to just be the same thing top and bottom here. And now from this case, what we're going to do is we're going to hold it like this, so we can see this shape is like this. And we're going to have the same shape on bottom, but we're not going to hold it like that. We're going to have it hold it the opposite of whatever this is. It is possible to do it like this. I'm pretty sure most people do it like this. So either way, just make sure the bottom is on the opposite side of the top. And then once you slice, then you have this shape, and what you want to do is hold it towards like that, and it's just a mirror, and then slice. And then there you have it. You have cube shape. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to put all the corners on the correct side. So there's a couple different ways to do this. So if we had white, we could put white on the bottom if we wanted to and just fix it later. Some people will do that, some people won't. So what I'm gonna teach you is just do whichever one's easiest. So this is pretty intuitive, and if you've ever tried on 3x3 doing similar to Square-1, then it's quite easy. There's an alg that will swap these two, and it looks like this. So we're gonna do an R2, we're gonna do U and R2 U prime R2, and it's gonna look like that. Except remember earlier I taught that misaligning the cube by 1 keeps in cube shape. We're going to do that. So that can put this corner here, and we just do those moves. And if you want it to be an easier way, it's just the Square-1 version of a sexy move. Except it does a little bit, it's a little bit more than that, but still. So then we could just do that here. So we'll swap with this one, and then we do that, and boom. Next thing we're going to do is we want to orient all the edges to the correct side. So this is going to be not whichever one you want. Now it's going to be whichever one you set the corners on. So what we want to do is we're going to hold one here. It's going to swap this one with this one. So just remember, it's going to swap the top right with the back one. And it looks like this. Misline the cube by 1. And then do this. Actually, I messed up. I cannot do that alg slowly. Hold up. Alright, sorry. It looks like this. So I'm sorry I messed up the first time. I'm not used to doing the alg slower. Of course, I can't do it that fast anyway, but still. Okay, the next we're gonna do is if you know full PLO for 3x3, and just so you know, like it's full. For those of you who don't know, full PLO is not where you would solve this like this, and then solving it with a U-perm. You would just look at it, and then you'd do an alg just to solve it based on the case. So if you know that, then you can identify parity already. So what we're going to do is we'll look to see if there's an impossible case on both the top and bottom. If there's an impossible case for both the top and bottom, then there's no parity. If it's a possible case on both top and bottom, there's no parity. And if it's an impossible case on only one layer, there is parity. So as we can see here, we have a G-perm. So we have the two headlights, and then we have the block, which is possible. And on the top, we do not have a possible case. The closest thing we can get is probably the mixture of an N perm and a Y perm, maybe. I don't know. So anyway, the parity algorithm, it looks like this. It's quite simple. It also preserves the all this if you do it right. So it just swaps two corners like this and does an H perm on the bottom, so it looks like this. And then we have this case from earlier. So if you recognize this, then you could just solve cube shape. And also it flips this, but it's not very that useful. And now as we can see here, we have an R perm on the bottom. On the top, we have an U perm. So what we're going to do is if we have the corner solved already, then I'll just show you the corner. So you hold the headlights on this side instead of the opposite side, and it swaps these two. And the alg looks like this. So once again, that looks like this. So next what we're going to do is just solve all the corners. And if we have a case where there's no headlights on top. So anyway, if you have a case where there's no headlights, then you could just do the alg twice. Or do it once and then you have headlights and then you could just solve it from there. So next what we're going to do is we're going to solve the edges, and this can be done in a lot of different ways. We could do only 2 algs to solve this, or we could do 1 alg, but the easiest way is to do it twice. So this algorithm is going to swap these two edges and these two in the bottom. So generally what you want to do is, if you have a U-perm like this, you want to hold it to where the 2 cases, well, this is like a checkerboard pattern. If you are familiar with that pattern on 3x3, you'd recognize that this is the opposite color on the opposite side. So if you can recognize that, then you want to make sure that that's going to be swapped in one of the 2. Now, of course, swapping these 2 would just unsolve this piece, so we want to swap it with this 2. If we swapped it with this 2, that would solve this, and then we have it swap like this, and that's not that great. So what we're going to do is we can do this to swap this. And you could do the same thing and swap the bottom too if you want, but you could just do that later too. So anyway, it looks like this. So I'm misaligned one of the layers by 1. And that's swap those 2. And then we could do it, and then we could do the alg one more time. And then that solves it. But sometimes we'll have a case where, like, as you can see, the top layer solved, but the bottom layer isn't. In this case, we could just swap the bottom layer with the top layer using this alg. And then we could just solve it normally. Now, this is why you generally don't want to do it without the checkerboard pattern inside, because then you have a 2 swap here and a 2 swap here, and there's I don't know an alg to do that, and it just becomes more difficult. So if you swap with one like that, then it becomes a lot easier. So anyway, that's how you solve a Square-1. And if you want a tip really fast, if you have the H-perm as one of them, the alg does work also. So you do the M2 alg I talked about earlier, and then you can just do that. The H-perm does work on Square-1 as well. So if you want to try that out, go ahead. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. If there's anything that was unclear, I know I had bad lighting. Hopefully if you want me to reteach some of the algs so you can see the lighting better, then I will. Just let me know. And that's it for today, and see you guys in the next one.